There is something happening in the crypto market right now that I believe is going to have a massive impact on crypto, not only for the next couple hours or days, but probably the next week or two. And so, knowing this, I wanted to make a quick video for you all today going over exactly what this thing is that is happening and why it's so important. And based on that, what I'm doing in my own portfolio going forward. So, we have a good bit to get into today. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get straight into it. Now, in order for you to understand what is happening right now and why it's so important, I need to give you a little bit of context as to what we've been talking about for the last couple days. So, a couple days ago, I made a video on the channel titled, I Just Bought Ethereum and XRP, Here's Why. And in that video, I told you, listen, I just realized that Ethereum and XRP are both creating these massive descending channels. And at that point, we were at the bottom of those massive descending channels. And I said, listen, if this is the case, I think there's more than enough reason to assume that ETH and XRP are going to try to run back towards the top side sometime soon. So therefore, we bought some ETH and we bought some XRP. And that's what that whole video is about. Then the next day I said, oh snap, I just realized not only is it Ethereum and XRP, it's also Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's at the 50% line right now. And I think there's reason to believe that it might try to run towards the upside as well. So Bitcoin is also in a very bullish structure right now. So we need to watch out for this. Now, after both of those videos, the crypto market really started to take off. We saw Bitcoin's price absolutely sending to the upside, breaking out of the descending channel. We saw Ethereum's price ripping towards the upside, pushing right into the red zone. We saw XRP, for example, pushing up into the red zone, and majority of the altcoin market following behind them, printing in some really, really nice gains, especially over the last week. Now, in yesterday's video, though, I told you, listen, in this update, I said, listen, although this is great and what we're seeing from Bitcoin is fantastic, I don't want you to get too far ahead of yourselves, because what you have to understand is that when something like Bitcoin's price breaks out of this channel, there are still things that need to happen in order to confirm that this breakout is really going to occur. If we're really going to see Bitcoin run to say $130,000, there's a couple things that need to happen, and I'll update you along the way as these things are approaching. Well, today is the day that one of those things is approaching. Today is the day that if we are able to do something, which I'm going to explain to you in a second, but if we're able to do something, we could be opening up the door for Bitcoin to run to $135,000, $145,000, $150,000. But it all comes down to what is happening right now, hence the whole reason I made this video. So what is happening right now is that Bitcoin is running into the most important zone of resistance that is on its chart right now, period. And that zone of resistance is very easy to boil down, because what we're going to do is we're going to just get rid of the descending channel for now, and we're going to pay attention to this all-time high that we put in right back here in August, and then this recent low right around $107,000 from September. Now, looking at this high to this low, what we can see is that we are now retracing from this low to this high up here. So of course, naturally, what we're going to do is we're going to use our Fibonacci retracement tool, because we are retracing. Now, when you draw on your Fibonacci retracement from that previous high all the way down to that previous low, and if your settings look like mine, as you can see, feel free to set your settings to look like this, what you can see is that we are now in what is called the Fibonacci golden zone, this golden box right here. And this golden box is the hardest, strongest, toughest level of resistance that Bitcoin faces in general. When you have a high like this, which is especially an all-time high, and then a regional low, when you start to work your way back up and get close to that golden zone, it is extremely difficult for you to break it. Look what happened last time we got close to it. The last time we got close to it right here, we immediately got rejected all the way back down to $108,000. So I'm not just making this up. This is a very strong level of resistance. And what you can see is that right now, Bitcoin is trying to make the decision. It is attempting with all of its might to break through this Fibonacci golden zone for the first time, breaking above $120.6 thousand and starting to erase some of this massive resistance that's sitting directly above us. Now, if you don't understand why this is so important, what you need to understand is this. Based on historical performative data, when Bitcoin's price is capable of breaking above and staying above macro golden zones like this one, the opportunity for a Fibonacci extension, or just in other words, a really good pump, is very high. For example, if Bitcoin's price is capable of breaking above 120.6, there's a good chance that it pushes not only back to the all-time high, but maybe even higher up towards 129.5 or even $136,000. And I know that might not seem possible these days, but trust me, it is if we're able to get above this massive golden zone of resistance. Now, it gets even deeper than that though, because not only is this going to have a huge impact on whether or not Bitcoin can rally, it's likely going to dictate if the rest of the market can rally. For example, as Bitcoin's price is pushing into that major zone of resistance, Ethereum is now pushing into the red zone here. And I think, listen, if Bitcoin's price breaks that golden zone, I think ETH is going to try to break out of this red zone and make a run for itself. If Bitcoin's able to break that golden zone, I think XRP is going to be able to confirm this breakout of this descending channel that it's trying to make right now. If Bitcoin clears that golden Fibonacci zone, I think Solana's price is going to be able to break this $232 level that it's been stuck under and maybe try to push up towards a new regional high itself, clearing this one. I think Bitcoin breaking this golden zone is going to be what leads us out of these massive resistance zones in the altcoin market as well, which will give us gains not only for Bitcoin, but for altcoins too. And I think those gains could last for days or maybe even weeks. And so knowing this, it is incredibly important that you lock in on the Bitcoin chart and you draw in that $120.6 thousand level and you watch it like a hawk. Because what happens here is going to be the deciding factor of altcoins, Bitcoin, and crypto as a whole is going to continue to give us gains, or if this is going to slow down. Are these green bubbles going to continue to print, or do we have red bubbles on the way? All of that gets decided right here as Bitcoin attempts to break above $120.5 thousand. Now, if it gets rejected, it's not the end of the world. Don't get me wrong, but things will get probably a little bit ugly. It wouldn't shock me to see Bitcoin come back down to maybe this previous point of resistance. If it loses that one, Bitcoin coming back down to around $113,000 makes a lot of sense. And that would bring, of course, the altcoin market down with it anywhere from 10% or 5% to 15%, right? So there would likely be, of course, some red if Bitcoin gets rejected here. But if it doesn't, hey, we could have a nice pump on the way, and obviously that would be great. And so I think you kind of get the picture now. This is a very, very big moment. And what happens here with Bitcoin is going to impact altcoins, so you have to watch it closely. So what am I doing right now? First, deleverage. I am completely deleveraged right now. I am not going to gamble my portfolio in a moment like this where the market's about to make such a massive decision. I will look at the liquidation map. There are too many liquidations on both sides. There are more liquidations to the downside than the upside, which means that there is a higher probability right now that Bitcoin does actually get rejected and goes back down. But you never know. This is only the short term. When we zoom all the way back up to the 30-day, you can start to see that that number really grows. When you look at the 7-day, that number really, really grows. And so knowing that there are this amount of liquidations to the downside, yeah, I'm not taking a risk right now. I'm not going to be having these huge leverage trades open. None of that stuff. I'm going to sit this one out and I'm going to wait. What am I actually going to do though? What sort of moves am I going to make outside of leverage trades? I'm taking profit out of my macro bag. Why? Because we just bought in fear a couple days ago. The purchases that we made on Bitcoin, XRP, Ethereum, whatever, they're all in profit right now. Look at the move that Bitcoin's made since we recognized that it was in the descending channel over the last couple days. The thing is absolutely rallied from this previous low all the way up here over 10%. You can lock in a 10% gain on Bitcoin. You lock that thing in. You look at Ethereum. We made that purchase when ETH was in the green zone, guys. This bad boy is now up over 13%, 14%. Lock in some gains. When you look at XRP trying to break out after bouncing off the 50% zone, this thing's up nearly 13%. These cryptos are up, but they are running into a massive zone of resistance. And so knowing that we have profit on the table right now that we can take, I'm taking it. And I don't care if people get upset by that. It is what it is. I buy when everyone's scared. I sell when everyone's excited. And I especially sell whenever we are running into a massive zone of resistance just like this. So I'm selling some. Am I selling a lot? No, guys. I'm not selling a lot of crypto. These are small take profits that I'm doing consistently as we're pushing into these levels. But what this does is it guarantees that I'm going to benefit from this move that we're in, and it gives me some extra cash just in case the crypto market does want to go and start chasing down. For example, Bitcoin, if it wants to start chasing down some of these bottom side liquidations. So to me, it's a win-win. Either Bitcoin's price is just going to break out and I'm going to continue taking some great profits off the table because we were buying when everyone was scared, or we're going to take some cash off the table right now. Bitcoin's going to pull back. I'm going to use some of that cash that I took to buy more, and then whenever it tries to make that run to the upside, then I'll lock in even more profit. So it's either profit now or profit later. Baby, that's cool with me. I'm down for whichever one it wants to happen. So that's my game plan. It's very steady, but it's very simple, and it works consistently. As you all know, when I was buying XRP and Ethereum a couple days ago, look at the comments. Everybody was saying it's too early, you bought too soon, everything says the market's going to go down, you're wrong this time, blah, blah, blah. And I said, listen, I might be wrong, but what I'm not wrong about is the fact that this market is scared, and I buy when people are scared. And 3 days later, now that it's up 10 or 15% and I'm taking profits, everyone's going to tell me that I'm dumb for taking profits. But one day you'll realize that when you go against the crowd, when you go against everyone who's screaming at you, you oftentimes win. And that's the sort of strategy that I like to stick to. So what I know is that Bitcoin's price is at a massive zone of resistance, and so is the altcoin market. We're in gains. So I'm locking in some small profit right now. I'm deleveraging, and I'm waiting to see what Bitcoin does right here, knowing the massive impact that it's going to have on the market. And as per usual, I will update all of you as this all plays out, but make sure you draw $120.6 thousand on your Bitcoin chart and watch that thing closely. Because again, what happens here, it's going to be huge. Okay. So I'll update you here as it plays out. And don't forget, I also post daily updates over on Instagram, The Life of Tyler Hill. When you load onto my Instagram, you're going to see some personal stuff about me, my fighting career, whatever. If you go to the Reels tab, you're going to see daily updates about all your favorite cryptos over there. So feel free to check it out. I hope you guys did enjoy today's quick update and you feel prepared and you know exactly what to be watching in the market. And I'll see you all as soon as there is something to update you about. Peace out, everybody.